Hello, thank you for tuning in to Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith, and welcome to your news at noon. Let's get to the news in detail. Local content at its core involves companies utilizing as much as possible indigenous goods and services for their operations, as well as the transfer of skills, knowledge, and technology. Since assuming office, the PPPC government has pledged to ensure local content is achieved, especially in the infrastructure and petroleum sectors. However, a local private sector organization, the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, has aired complaints about what it deems as the preference of foreign companies and the bypassing of local companies when it comes to executing projects in the oil sector. In a statement to the press yesterday, the business chamber noted the overwhelming number of infrastructure work that is being executed by foreign-owned companies. Further to this, GCCI highlighted the high volume of trucking, logistical, and other support services which are being operated by foreign-owned companies, particularly as it relates to the oil and gas sector. While the chamber reiterated that it remains supportive of foreign investment in Guyana, it was quick to note that this should not be done at the expense of displacement of indigenous Guyanese companies. And in other news, the government is looking to provide solar-powered electricity to more than 30,000 hinterland homes through loans from the Inter-American Development Bank and the Government of India. Guyana and India signed an agreement on Wednesday at the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center for a line of credit to Guyana totaling $7.2 million. Guyana was represented by Minister of Finance Ashni Singh, and India was represented by Indian High Commissioner Dr. KJ Srinivasa. Dr. Singh said the agreement will facilitate the provision of solar power for 30,000 hinterland homes. He thanked the Indian High Commissioner for making the initiative possible. And in other news, despite bidding higher than local contractors, a Chinese company, Shandong Dijian International, was still awarded a contract to build the St. Rose's High School, located on Church and Camp Streets, Georgetown. The contract for the construction of the school, which totals $515 million, was signed between the foreign company and the Ministry of Education on Wednesday last. The ministry boasted that a legal tendering process was conducted for the project before it was awarded to Shandong. The commencement of the tendering process took place on July 20th, 2021, and the Chinese company submitted its bid for the project alongside 5 other local companies. According to the minutes of the tendering process published on NPTAP's website, Shandong submitted a bid to construct the school for a total of $518 million. In other news, 55-year-old Bibi Nazila Habibuddin was yesterday handed a death sentence for paying to have her father killed. The hitman, Lyndon Lewis, called Bullets, also received the same fate for the death of 76-year-old Habibuddin, the only name given, and a businessman of Ruby, East Bank, Essequibo. Bibi and Lewis were sentenced by Justice Sandil Kisoon in the Demerara High Court. During August of 2021, the duo had denied the charge, which stated that on February 15, 2008, they murdered Habibuddin. According to what Lewis had told the police, it all began sometime in 2008, when Bibi complained that other relatives had received properties and other assets, while she had received nothing. The woman had also stated that she wanted the old man's fuel station, cash he had in a bank, and assets he had in Georgetown. She then contacted an uncle of Lewis and hired Lewis to kill her father. He was promised $6 million, a house, and a land. And moving on, a 42-year-old man was last evening beaten and robbed by 2 bandits at Good Fortune housing scheme on the west bank of Demerara. At 19 hours 45, the victim was driving in the area when he noticed 2 men on a bicycle following him. The driver stopped when one of the bandits hit the vehicle with his hand, and after exiting, one of the bandits threw his bicycle at him. They then began beating the driver and relieved him of a $45,000 cell phone, a $45,000 transition lens glasses, and $10,000 in cash. The bandits then made good their escape in an unknown direction. Several futile checks were made in the area for the 2 men. Police investigations are ongoing. And moving on, Deodat Durab, the man who had beaten his brother to death, was on Thursday granted bail in the sum of $250,000 at the Springlands Magistrates Court. Durab appeared before Magistrate Rabindranath Singh and was charged with manslaughter committed on Laikram Durab of the same address. The accused was arrested on Monday for reportedly beating his brother to death with a 2x4 piece of wood on Sunday night. He has since admitted to committing the act. He had told police that he and his brother were arguing and it escalated into a fight. He said the deceased choked him and he retaliated by picking up a piece of wood and dealing several blows to his brother's head, back, and arms until he was unconscious. Now for your COVID-19 update, followed by the page 7 of the Kaieteur News. Yesterday, the Ministry of Health reported that 6 more persons who tested positive for COVID-19 have died. As a result of this, Guyana's COVID-19 death toll has moved to 792. The country's latest fatalities are that of 4 unvaccinated persons, a fully vaccinated person, and another whose vaccination status is unknown. Meanwhile, 228 new infections were recorded, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 32,055. Presently, there are 30 persons in the ICU, 142 persons in institutional isolation, 3,651 in home isolation, and 4 in institutional quarantine. To date, a total of 27,440 persons who tested positive for the virus have recovered. Just before we move to the page 7, let's tell you that the Guyana Gold and Diamond Miners Association, or GDDMA, will soon be pilot testing a new piece of technology that can possibly see the increase in mineral recovery with a significant reduction in the use of mercury in Guyana's mining sector. Through a joint partnership with the Ministry of Natural Resources, the Riven Mineral Recovery System is expected to be pilot tested for the next 12 months as part of the GGDMA's commitment to exploring and finding effective and feasible technology solutions to improve recovery and effectiveness of minerals. It is understood that the joint agreement was signed on Friday. Nigeria is begging for billions to survive. Guyana could be Nigeria in a couple years, despite also having fabulous oil wealth. Nigerian leaders went on a borrowing binge and pocketed billions. Guyanese leaders are also binging with billion-dollar borrowings and will leave us scrambling to borrow more for survival too if they continue in a reckless manner. Who will lend us then when the oil is gone? Who will want anything to do with Guyana other than to use it as a doormat? With that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.
I am Glenn Lal, and I have some beautiful things to share with you guys. Fellow